Does your bankroll match personality type? Are you aggressive? And if so, do you have enough money to match the aggression? Are you a bankroll hammer guy with no bankroll? Right? Understand that. If not, if that answer is no, do you feel like you're being forced to playing a way that doesn't match who you are? What I want to talk about to you is psychology. We're going to get more into the psychology here later on in the programs. Matter of fact, all of next week, we're going to cover psychology. It might even be for 2 weeks that we cover psychology for, because this is an important piece of it. This is the thing that we make the most mistakes on, because we don't put ourselves in touch with who we are. And I think a lot of times that mismatch is the biggest problem that we have. And it's true in gambling, obviously, that's what we're talking about here, but it's also true in your life, right? And I want to connect you with a couple of ideas here, right? Who are you really? Okay. Now on the gambling side of things, and again, you can think about these questions that I'm asking here in terms of your life as well, but from a gambler's point of view, here's some questions to ask, right? Number one, what is your risk tolerance? And this is an important one. We call it like your threat posture. If you think about, like, I work in cybersecurity and coding, your threat posture for a company. What is that? What is your stance? How averse are you to risk? And this is going to answer the question of, are you a conservative or an aggressive player? That's going to be kind of where that line's for you. This is going to get you down that road. And the reason why I think it's important is this: if you have a lot of disposable income, okay, and again, this is going to be an interesting kind of maybe a little bit of a fracture here. Okay, if you have a lot of disposable income, the assumption may be that your risk tolerance is very low or very high, however you want to term that, right? I have a high risk tolerance. I don't care if I got, $250 in the bank, $250,000 in the bank in a separate account that I can use for casino gambling. You could say that I don't care about the risk, right? But that person buying in for $1,000 could not care less about the $1,000. You would think, okay? They probably really do. People who have that kind of money in the bank didn't get there because they don't care about their money. They got there because they're very cautious and they care and they worked to get it there, right? But your risk tolerance, how much am I willing to lose? Am I willing to light the $1,000 on fire? Or is that $1,000 seen by me as a tool that I have to kind of massage and work with to get to my goal? That's an important piece to know. What is your risk? If you take 10% of your master bankroll to the casino, are you okay with losing it or not? That's the first question. The second question is, what is that number? What is the number? What is the bankroll, right? If your 401g account, and I'll use myself an example. My 401g account's right about 5 right now. Okay, I've been up and down with it. I bought a bunch of stuff, right? Whatever. It's about 5K. It's been up, it's been down. That's where we are. 10% of that is $500. That's my typical buy-in right now, to be honest with you. That's my bankroll. What should I be doing there? Should I be with that bankroll at a $100 table? No, right? But that bankroll determines where I go and what I do. For sure, that has a huge impact on what I do and how I play. My risk tolerance is I don't want to lose the 500. I want to make the 5,000 look like 10,000 so I can get back to normal again and start buying in for $1,000 or $2,000, right? That's what I want to be at. So my risk tolerance with that money in this era of my life is low. Low risk. I don't want to put that too much at risk. When I have 20K in that bank account and I bought in for $1,000, my risk tolerance was higher because I wanted that money to be a stronger tool for me. That's an important thing. What's my goal? I told you my goal, build that bankroll. Your goal might be to pay for your trip, earn enough money in Vegas to pay for the plane rides and the food. Your goal might be to say, I don't care about my money. I've got a low risk tolerance. I really don't care about it. Let me go and light it on fire so I can light the casino on fire. Maybe that's your goal, right? What's your realistic expectation? You have to know these things before you leave your house. We talked yesterday about what is your goal statement. Remember the goal statement? I'm willing to risk X playing this game so that I can earn Y so that I can do X with the money. Remember all that we talked about yesterday? This is what these questions are kind of giving you that extra level of detail to that goal statement. Super important thing for you to understand here, okay? Now, To get into it, this is gonna again lead us into next week and maybe the week after. I wanna look at every player type. And this is we call them in marketing, we call them personas. What persona are you? What is your predisposition? And if I go back a screen, what is your risk tolerance? Who are you? This answers the question, who are you? Are you a conservative person or a conservative player? And that means I don't want to lose a dime. Like, I really don't want to lose my money. I have this super low risk. I don't want to lose anything. I'm going to be playing more hybrid, right? More hedgy kind of strategy, more 6, 7, 8 tiles. Give me a little like today, like the odds maker. Give me a little pass line, a little DC, not putting a bunch of money out there, not trying to press like crazy. I'm playing a short game. I'm trying to get in and get out, I'm trying to get 2 or 3 wins, 64 across, 1, 2, 3 hits, same bet and go home. Like, that's the kind of person that's a conservative on the craps table. And again, this is your mindset. This is your brain saying, I am a conservative person. I don't want to have the risk. Your brain could also be saying, I am super aggressive. Like, I am going to the casino with the $500 or the $1,000 or the $5,000, and I'm going to burn it down to the ground to burn them down to the ground. Whether you're going to go right side or dark side, 3-point dolly with max odds, right? Like, seriously, don't pass, hammer it. Don't come, hammer it, hammer it. You get 3 massive don't bets. That's aggressively going after the 7. If you want to be aggressively going after the right side, right? 120 inside, press to the roof, right? You're an aggressive person, an aggressive player. We're going to talk later on about making sure that matches, right? Are you a thinker? We have a person in the audience, one of my favorite people in the world, Skill Unlocked, Dylan. He's the thinker. Dylan likes to concoct all the ways, right, to beat the game with his brain, right? Using probability, math, hybrid style play. He will lay the 9 for $636 exactly, and put a $21 horn and a $26 field out there to save a $100 don't pass bet. Like, all that works perfect, minus like a $10 spiff somewhere, right? That's the thinker. The thinker is trying, and I used to be in this category. I might still be in this category. The thinker is always trying to play the game. They're playing, I think JB called it battleship. You're trying to play battleship against the casino. You're trying to, that's what you're doing all the time, right? You can't beat the game. We know this, but the thinker is only engaged when they're thinking. And I said this in my podcast, The Fireside Craps. The reason why I would put myself, and I might call myself an aggressive thinker. Maybe I cross over categories here, but I always feel like, again, this is a little bit of me coming out here. I feel like it's sad to me if you just sort of play 3-point Molly, even though it's a good strategy, right? The odds maker, to some degree, is a sad little strategy. And I say that because there's no effort put into it. It's like, I think we said this on the podcast. It's like playing the lottery and having the computer pick the numbers for you. Give me 10 quick picks for the $1 billion, right? Having the machine pick 10 quick picks and having me put 10 cards with my birthday, all the family's birthdays on it. I actually have a card with all of our birthdays on it, with all the dogs' birthdays on it, with all my favorite craps numbers on, my favorite roulette numbers, right? I picked the cards. Is there any difference between the cards that I picked, the 10 and 10 random computer picks? There's no difference. There's zero difference in Powerball, right? None. There just as much chance to win on the random ones versus my own. But as a thinker, I like to go, let me make a ticket where all the numbers are odds. All the odd numbered birthdays come out, and all the even numbered birthdays are, that's the kind of thing a thinker does, right? On roulette and craps, all the roulette strategies have got bets everywhere, right? Somebody's trying to outthink the wheel. But it's to me, the thinker's brain has to be engaged. And if you fall into that category, great, that's good. But make sure, again, that you are aware of that. And you don't go out there, you are a thinker, but you're playing some other way. Like, that's the thing that we have to kind of get through. If you're a math person, a completely math-driven person, you're playing the line, right? And that's somebody who's, like I said before, they've given up. The math player, the pure math player, the Michael Shacklefords of the world, to me, have given up. They're at the craps table or at the roulette table doing quick picks, right? If you're a mathlete, if you're going to the craps table and you're playing pass line max odds and 2 come bets with max odds, you're basically doing a quick pick, right? And again, you can argue with me that 96 across versus a $25 come bet and max odds, it's the same risk, it's the same thing. It probably is the same thing mathematically speaking, but the math person doesn't want to think. They don't want to try and beat the game. They're going to follow the numbers of house edge. And to me, that person's given up. But you have to embrace that if that's you. If you can't get out of the headspace that says, I want to play low house edge, then you got to embrace it and do it and own that. And it's fine. It's fine. We'll talk about that as well. The bankroll hammers, right? This is going to be the guys that do the $5,000 buy-in and they do the ladder chases, right? Or the martingale players, right? Where their bankroll is the tool. It's not strategic. Like, I'm going to play these 3 numbers and press that one and move to here and do all the things a thinker would do, right? The bankroll hammer guy says, I'm going to bet right here and I'm just going to wait it out. And if you beat me, I'm putting more money up. If you beat me again, I'm putting up more money. Beat me again, it's more money. My bankroll will beat the casino because eventually the things will come back to me. And that person has a super high risk tolerance. They don't care. They're putting 5K or 10K up to win $100 sometimes because they know that they have the hammer and they look at every problem as a nail. Okay. If that's your mindset, fine, go play that way. But again, know that, put that in your mind. Okay. What I worry about is people that see other people playing other ways and assume their persona. That's a scary thing. We'll talk about that here in a second. The last player type here is a field player. This is the guys that you know from chat that will, quote unquote, read a table, right? The field player reads the table. I sense a trend. I feel a streak coming, or I'm in a streak, or whatever it is, or I'm a controlled thrower, is a field player, right? Controlled throwers are typically going to be, again, they're going to cross over. You can be a conservative guy and a controlled thrower at the same time. I would put myself there as well, right? I'm a conservative player, generally speaking. Depends on my goal that day, I suppose, right? But as a controlled thrower, I'm looking to feel. I'm getting a lot of 5s today, right? My toss is producing 5s. We're on the 5, right? If you're not a controlled thrower and you don't have the dice, you're feeling out the table and making bet choices based on what you're seeing. So that person also, that's their psychology. They can't get out of the mindset of, I'm reading the table, I'm seeing what's happening, that's where my money's gonna go. That's cool. Know the answer to the questions. Know who you are in this world. Are you conservative, aggressive? Do you like to outthink the game? Do you only rely on math? Do you have a massive bankroll and you're gonna use the bankroll as your hammer, not your brain? Or are you more of a field player? What I worry about, and I alluded to this earlier, was people who watch YouTube videos. And again, I'm guilty of this as well. I put YouTube videos out with strategies on them. I watch them also. I worry about people who watch YouTube videos and go, that looks cool. They watch me play the Philly special, and 4 or 5 times I've taken the Philly special and I've won 5K with it. Oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. What a great pressing rhythm John just come up with, right? Or they watch me play the odds maker and they go, oh man, he's winning every day. I'm doing that. That's beautiful. Or they watch Waylon do a loss ladder chase on whatever he's got going on, right? Oh man, wow. He wins every time, right? Because eventually the ladder works, right? And you go, that's great. What I worry about is your psychology might be you're a whatever, conservative player, but you love what you saw somebody else do and you try and apply what you saw to your brain and you have this instant, okay, my brain didn't let me do this. My brain's telling me this is wrong, but it looked like so much fun or it looked perfect, right? You get this opposing force in your brain. You've got to be careful of that. And I think this is where YouTube has done all of us a disservice, I think, to some degree. So you look at like these different play styles. To me, that's the big disservice of YouTube is I see a lot of cool things, but they don't really match me. And you've got to start connecting the dots of my personality type with the play style that I'm seeing and what my bankroll actually is. Maybe you are, in line with the ladder loss thinking, but you've got $500. Maybe you are in line with the aggressive line of thinking, but you've only got $250. Maybe you are super conservative, but you're rolling in there with $10,000 because you've got this great, disposable income stash, right? All of that has to kind of come here for you to have the best chance of winning. Match up who you are with what you got and what you're trying to get to. I think that's the most important piece to this whole thing. And again, we're going to work that whole thing next week, maybe the next 2 weeks. We're going to really answer this question and do the reality check and try and understand to the best of our ability, does our personality, conservative, aggressive, thinker, whatever it is, match up with our bankroll and match up with our goals? All three of those things have got to be on point for you to have success. If you don't have the bankroll to achieve your goal, and you're not going to play in a way that suits you and your bankroll, you're going to miss the goal every single time. That unless you strike lightning in a bottle, okay? It's already hard enough to do all that stuff. So you've got to be willing to take some concessions and play different ways that support all three things. Make sure all three things are kind of in alignment. And again, these things may not be in alignment every time you go to the casino. I think it's important to know that too. It's very, very possible that today I'm going with this small bankroll and a small goal in a conservative mindset. Tomorrow, I may be going with a bigger bankroll and a more aggressive mindset. You got to, be able to switch that if you need to on a per session basis. But by and large, you are who you are. And you got to sort of own who you are, okay? So here's your self-checkup. Here's your questions, right? Does your bankroll match personality type? Are you aggressive? And if so, do you have enough money to match the aggression? Are you a bankroll hammer guy with no bankroll, right? Understand that. If not, if that answer is no, do you feel like you're being forced to playing a way that doesn't match who you are? Like, I want to be a bankroll hammer guy. I want to do the lost ladder. I want to play like Waylon. I want to do a Daylan Bear. I want to do a Martingale. I want to do it, but I only got this much money, so I got to play it a different way. Or got to play it somewhere else, right? You can take your $500 and do a lost ladder at $1 level on a bubble craps machine, but you got to be okay with not being at the real table. And again, does your brain allow you to do that? Those are the tough questions, guys. What are your realistic goals and how do you merge it all together? And the things I'm talking about here are how we merge it together, okay? And again, you've got to check the ego. You got to check it all aside and say, look, I am wanting to be aggressive. I don't have the money to be aggressive. There's a thing over there called a bubble craps machine that I can be aggressive on. And that will feed that beast for you. Maybe you can use that $200 and your aggressive way today works and you earn 100, right? And you can build that up to where you can play where you quote unquote want to play. But I think you got to get your brain right, guys. Got to get your brains right. It's so important to be in touch with who you are, personality-wise, who you are in your soul, what your bank account looks like, what can you afford to lose, and what are you willing to lose, and what's the goal at the end. All that has to marry up. So that's going to be kind of a preview today of what's coming next week. We're going to talk, again, I've got to go back a couple screens here. I've got a full day planned to talk about each of these player types. It'll take us 2 weeks to get through it all. But we're going to talk about each player type, and I will show you some strategies on the craps table and on the roulette table. And even we can do a little bit, maybe we'll do some cards too, that speak to how would you play with these different personality types at different bankroll levels.